Good morning and welcome to the program. The only way to start your day, Good Morning Kenya. And my name is Samuel Njoroge. It's time for In the Headlines. But literally, it looks like this morning we will only have one headline, and it's the only headline that is trending right now. Commissioner Dr. Roslyn Akombe resigned around 2 or so hours ago, citing a few reasons which we shall go through in the course of this particular discussion. So join into the conversation. The hashtag on Twitter is Good Morning Kenya, and the text line is 22162. Fungua roho, ongea. All right? Give us the opportunity to kickstart your morning all the way to 9 a.m. I've got my resident panelists with me in studio. To my extreme left, that is Peter Abande. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Well, the situations are not very good, but we'll talk about that.
We can manage. Can we? Okay, Ruth Ambogo. Good morning.
It's a wonderful morning.
Yes, it is. I'd like to begin with the ladies first. Your take on the resignation of Dr. Roslyn Akombe.
I think when you said you want to begin with the ladies, I will hit it right on the nail. And I think for me, this is it. When a country or when a nation is at the precipice of crumbling, women will always save the day. I am excited. I am more than happy about Commissioner Akombe's resignation. She has clearly said, or rather, what she is indirectly telling us is that, you know what, my conscience is clear. I am not going to put my foot where I know that I cannot be able to stand with the consequences of the same. She has understood where the country stands right now. She has seen it for herself. She is worried that lives are at stake. She has clearly stated in her statement that, you know what, I have witnessed what my IEBC staff members have gone through in the counties where there's violence, and she's mentioned a lot of things that many of us had only been anticipating, had only been thinking were rumors, but she has come out and told us, guys, it's real, it's happening. And you know what? I cannot stand. In fact, I like, there's a part of her statement where she clearly says that she is not going to be part of what shall be a mockery to electoral integrity. I stand with her. As a woman, I am proud of her. When very many people are saying that I'd rather die, she's saying, you know what? I would rather step aside and watch and see as my nation prospers. So as a woman, thumbs up.
I believe you make reference to her second last paragraph.
Yes.
Where she says, we need the commission to be courageous and speak out that this election as planned cannot meet the basic expectations of a credible election.
Yes.
Over to you, Peter. What's your take on this issue?
Another sad day for this country. For us, as Kenyans, we thought that we could have an election next week, and perhaps Kenyans wanted to move on with their lives. But an analyst yesterday, caught my eye when he said that it's in a situation in Kenya right now that it's noon and it's dark.
Yes. And
the darkness is still coming, and the dawn is yet to come. One thing that she cites that's really it's outstanding is the ability of a commissioner to bring value in the commission. And she's saying that in the commission as it exists right now, looks like they're already partisan approach and a way of doing things. So in an event that you're trying to bring value or you're trying to argue out a solution on a situation, there are already rigid situations or rigid positions that already exist in the commission. And that poses the situation, and that begs the question is, what is it that brought us here? I remember, if you read the Supreme Court ruling that made us go back to these elections, was on the background of irregularities and illegalities that took place. And one of the irregularities that was that the chairman was trying to seek in the Supreme Court yesterday was whether they could verify or rather check or rather do alterations. That is neither here nor there for me. For us is that we understand that if from A it produces from B and from B produces from C. If from C is not consistent with the forms, then I mean there's no argument over that. So for me today, I think that it's another political roller coaster, another situation that international community is actually looking at Kenya today and wondering what next for this country. But for me, I think it just brings out some of the thorny issues within the commission. They've tried to deny it several times, but it has come out. And the composition of the commission, if you look at historical composition of commissions that are trying to manage elections in this country, there's always some level of, you know what, my person has to be in that commission. Your person must be in this commission, so that everybody sees or seems to rest easy. That is where the rain started beating us. If you ask us, where did the rain start beating us in the electoral process of this country, is the composition of that commission, whereby this electoral divide is saying that, look, my person has to be there, my person has to be there. And you've seen it playing out, and it has thrown us in another dark position.
There is a question that has been bugging my mind since Sunday, when we had the IBC chair give an announcement, and among the things he cited was whether these people will be reintegrated, or saying that it's too late to include the other candidates into the electoral management system. He went ahead and elaborated other issues. And it got me thinking, Ruth.
Yes.
The problem we currently have in this country, is there really an election, or there's something deeper than that?
I think there's something deeper than that. Clearly, you can tell from first of all, from Akombe's remarks, she says that the commission seems to be partisan. And you see, when the question of partisan comes up, when the word partisan comes up, then it goes without a say. That people are taking, yes, it indicts independence, and it says that particular members of the commission are taking instructions from elsewhere. And you see, an independence of the commission purports that, or rather brings to play the fact that the commission should be able to make its decisions on its own, should be able to even interpret the law as it is. So when you say, is there something deeper? Clearly there is. Clearly, from the face of it, and even yesterday's Supreme Court ruling, Supreme Court's pronouncement on the advisory opinion that the IBC chair was seeking, the Supreme Court said that the courts of lower, levels should be bound by decisions of the Supreme Court. So there's a lot more that's going on. There is a commission that is clearly trying to run away from what the law is. There's a commission that is clearly trying to, on the face of it, misinterpret what the rulings that are coming out of the court, because I think Akombe also put it out that they can no longer vote on issues independently. So the independence of this commission is on trial. And the moment we have a commission whose members cannot be able to have independent thought, cannot be able to make independent decisions, then we are headed for chaos. This crisis that we are talking about, this political crisis, is coming from all the fronts and all the parties that are party to this election. That is the IEBC, that is the political coalition, that is NASA, that is Jubilee, and every other interested party, and even the international organizations, and even losers of elections. So there is a lot that is at play, and IEBC is also playing the game, and it is unfortunate, because the moment the constitution sought out to have independent commissions. Remember that before the new constitution, commissioners would be appointed by the president. So basically, commissioners were appointees of an individual, and they could take instructions from anyone and everywhere. And that is what led us to the the 2007 crisis that we had, where members of the ECK, as was back then constituted, would take orders from powers that were at that time. And it is unfortunate that a country that has made the huge strides that we have made, a country that has made this many steps towards achieving democracy, can still, at this day and age, where the whole world is watching, take us for fools as Kenyans.
The third paragraph to her statement reads, and I quote, "It has become increasingly difficult to continue attending plenary meetings where commissioners come ready to vote along partisan lines and not to discuss the merit of issues before them. It has become increasingly difficult to appear on television to defend positions I disagree with in the name of collective responsibility.
Yes.
I have concluded that I am no longer making any significant contribution to the commission and to my country as a commissioner." The context, Peter, of this, because definitely this will be interpreted courtesy of the context.
Yes.
There are those that will say she's been used to resign now, to create a crisis, and to avert the 26th repeat poll, or the repeat poll on the 26th. There are those that will say, you know what, Akombe has genuinely exposed the rot we've kept saying exists within IEBC, given the fact that these two opinions, and maybe more, are likely to characterize analysis from now moving forward, what is the sober position? What is the level ground given courtesy of Akombe's resignation?
Great. If you look at, if you read closely the Kregler report, he summarizes it by saying that, look, at the end of the day, it will take men and women of integrity in that position, as a commissioner, to ensure that a clear and transparent election process is delivered. We are going to have varied interpretations. In fact, the people from NASA side are going to have the interpretation. The people from Jubilee side are going to have their own interpretation. I already preempt what NASA side are going to say, what Jubilee side are going to say. Definitely Jubilee's divide is going to say, look, she's been used to ensure that they crumble the elections.
And we've had information
from before.
Yes.
And the NASA side is going to come out and say, listen, this is what we said. And now it's unfolding and coming out clearly to the people of Kenya to see that the 26th election that is coming up is not going to take place, should not take place because of the non-preparedness. But let's look at it critically. And as we look at it critically, let's put the common mwananchi before each and everything. Right now, the economy is crumbling. Right now, a lot of institutions are not, in fact, as we go into these elections, we are already spending almost 11 billion. Let's not forget that.
That's true.
There are certain important institutions like the judiciary, whose budget has been cut as a result of ensuring that we foresee and just have a transparent and successful elections. The reasons why we are doing this is to ensure that we have closure to this matter, so that our lives continue. What has just happened this morning throws this country into a spin, whereby we are asking ourselves, is this another constitutional moment? And we go back to the bomber's intention. When we were trying to come up with this 2010 constitution, what are the things that we are trying to put in place to ensure that going forward or in prosperity, are we going to cater and manage crises of this nature? What is before us today is definitely a crisis in the making. Why? Because we, in such circumstances, in fact, the way she's listed her points, the grounds she's listed on that, it doesn't mean, okay, that letter is not an authority anyway. That is her opinion, what she's felt as a commissioner and as an individual. In fact, she sent that resignation letter as an individual, and her opinion and her feelings, the way she's feeling, and that's the reasons why she's going away. But looking at it critically, what is the repercussion of that letter? Are we going to see other commissioners following suit? Or are we going to see other commissioners now, also trying to defend their position, saying that, you know what, with us we are staying put because we believe in 2016. So where we are now is whereby the international community are now when the church and the international community were telling us, guys, listen, we have to dialogue. Yeah. This is the point whereby we must dialogue, and it may attract, remember the 1997 IPPG situation, whereby now the political players across the divide must now sit down and say and give us a way forward. So we need closure and we need a way forward, because from the look of things, in fact, in the next 6 months or 4 months, we may not have had closure to this matter. Yeah. And really, Kenyans need to move on.
Yes.
Actually, you borrow your citation from yet another paragraph in this particular letter, and she says it is critical that all political actors and the commission take a pause to review where we are leading this country. It is not too late to save our country from the crisis. We just need a few men and women of integrity to stand up and say that we cannot proceed with the election on the 26th of October 2017 as currently planned. And the issue of integrity is borrowed from the Kregler Commission. I'd like to cross over now to you, Ruth. Does the law, or better yet, law aside, does this create any lacuna, the resignation of a commissioner literally a week to the polls, does it create any kind of lacuna?
As it stands right now, as he said, other commissioners might choose to just say, you know what, we are moving forward, we are going ahead with this election as planned, and nothing will happen. I think the law foresaw certain circumstances where a commissioner might not be present to oversee an election or to be part of the announcement of the results of an election. And I think that is pretty much taken care of in terms of the law provides for such situations where one might be absent. Remember when the Supreme Court was giving its ruling on September 1st, we had one of the Supreme Court judges was away. Did that prevent the Supreme Court from issuing their ruling? What we should be asking right now is the current cases that are going on in court, the current appeals that stand before the Court of Appeal, and the petitions that have been put forth before the High Court for interpretation purposes. What if, I think what we should be asking is, what shall be the outcome of what is currently sitting in court? Because remember, we have the Ekuru Aukot appeal that is going to be heard tomorrow, and a ruling to be delivered by Friday. And also remember that we have the Haron Mwao petition that basically is, I think he was, I think he went to the High Court, yeah?
Yes.
And he was seeking that the High Court interprets and states why they have departed from the Supreme Court 2013 decision. If it so happens that the that the Court of Appeal overturns the decision of the High Court in the Ekuru Aukot appeal, in the Ekuru Aukot ruling, then clearly we will not go for an election on 26th October. And also, if the High Court interprets and says that indeed, if the High Court interprets and says that indeed the judge in the case of Ekuru had erred in law by, going against what, rather departing from the precedent that the Supreme Court had set in the 2013 case, then again, we are not going to have an election on 26th October. But then again, remember that Justice Maraga, in the delivery of his ruling in the 2017 petition, clearly stated that if we go for this election, and it so happens that we come for an appeal, a petition comes before this court, we shall decide it the same way, in the same manner that we decided it back in September, on September 1st. And what does this say? This states to us as a country that indeed it seems that we might be headed to a direction where we will be at perpetually be within the courts of this country. And it means that we are going to be perpetually in an electioneering mood. And as he said, we are already spending a lot of money as a country on this repeat election. We are already spending a lot of money on training of the IEBC officials. There's just so much that is at stake. The country is at a standstill. We clearly need to move forward. Former Chief Justice Willy Mutunga, in one of his rulings, said that a country should watch out, should be careful not to be perpetually in a litigious situation where we are consistently in the courts. And I think even Kalpana Rawal, former DCJ, Deputy Chief Justice, also once intimated and said that a nation needs to know, an electorate, the body electorate needs to know with final clarity who has been voted for, So I think we really need to start thinking about that. We cannot be in a mood where for a period of 4 months, 6 months down the line, we have no idea who our president is. So when you ask about the question of a lacuna, do we have a gap? Should we be worried? I think if the other commissioners decide to, like he said, decide to stay put and say we are moving, regardless of Akombe's decision to move, we might have an election if the matters that stand within the courts are, decided as they are. But then again, we'll go back to the Supreme Court and it will be the same process over and over again.
Let me cross to you, Peter.
Yes.
What next for IEBC?
Good question. In fact, this whole process of IBC brings in one very important question of the role of election observers. It's very clear that this commission, as we have it, is troubled. And looking at the preparedness, most of the returning officers, agents and the rest, they have not been trained. In fact, a better part of, I think, NASA Stronghold have not seen most of these commissioners being trained. Training is part and parcel of the preparation of these elections. And if that is not done, then there is an issue.
Yeah.
Now, that brings into question the role of international observers, for example, the EU observers. When they're giving IBC a clean bill of health, the way I saw 2 days ago, they should always come out and tell us what is it that they have seen that has worked in the IBC. They should not just give a blanket statement and say, guys, listen, we think IBC is now ready to conduct the elections. Clearly, it is not. And one of the reasons that I've been trying to bring forth in this forum is that we have not also seen a proper civic education. Remember last time, almost 500,000 votes, were spoiled. And civic education is also very integral
Yes.
in the electioneering preparedness. If that does not take place, then it means we have issues in the preparedness of the elections. That aside, what next for us? Where we sit as Kenyans, and just to be sober and just to sit in the middle, not to say I'm NASA or this is Jubilee, what Kenyans right now need is ask ourselves a very big question. Can we have a credible election in the next 5 days?
Yeah.
Can we have a credible election in the next 5 days? Whereby we're still grappling with the question of record to be included, whether you know, a lot of issues coming in. Akombe is resigning. We may just get another commissioner again saying they have resigned.
Yeah.
So are we able to have a credible election in the next 5 days? In my view, no. And let us take time as Kenyans. Let us take time as the political players who are in the field and ask ourselves, can we give ourselves, let's say 7 months, or another 1 year, or another
too
more,
long.
or it may be long.
Too
but
long.
sometimes
12 months.
it may be long. Let
Too
me tell
long.
you, it may be long, it may be short, but will it allow us to prepare enough so that we don't go in circles in the corridors of in the courtroom? Is it going to give us enough time to just diffuse the tension in this country? Is it going to give us enough time to give us an opportunity to trust each other, that this time around we can go into this contest and trust the system? Those are the questions. And if we want to rush, we may say it's too long. We may tell ourselves, okay, let's hurry and make this snappy in 2 months. But is it enough? Is it enough for Kenyans to prepare for a credible, transparent, viable election?
The issue of voter education, we had this conversation after in the headlines, EOP, Iron Politics on Monday, and some of these issues came up very seriously. The issue of voter education, of course, that did not come from IEBC largely in the just concluded 8th of August polls. Largely that was left to the politician. And we saw what happened. As a result, we had close to 500,000 rejected votes. Do you know why? It's because the politician does not do voter education. What a politician does is called campaigns. So it's up to IEBC to take up that role seriously. The issues to do with training of presiding officers is, again, not coming from this set. It's coming from the commission itself, courtesy of the letter that was written by Dr. Rosalyn Akombe. And it says, not when, of course she said, we need the commission to be courageous and speak out, that this election as planned cannot meet the basic expectations of a credible election, not when the staff are getting last-minute instructions on changes in technology and electronic transmission of results, not when in parts of the country the training of presiding officers is being rushed for fear of attacks from protesters, and not when commissioners and staff are intimidated by political actors and protesters and fear for their lives, not when senior secretariat staff and commissioners are serving partisan political interests, not when the commission is saddled with endless legal cases in the courts and losing most of them, not when legal advice is skewed to fit partisan political interests. The commission in its current state can surely not guarantee a credible election on the 26th of October 2017. It takes me back to the take I had during the end of our Iron Politics program on Monday, and I will re-say it, okay? And this precisely goes to Chairman Chebukati. We need sobriety in this nation. And actually, the simile goes, as sober as a judge. You are a judge. You have practiced law long enough to qualify to be a sitting judge at the Supreme Court, the highest court of this land. So we look to you, sir, to give direction, leadership, and provide a sober playing field for this election to take place. It has nothing to do with Jubilee. It has nothing to do with NASA. It has everything to do with the kind of environment you create and the sobriety you brew to ensure that this election happens in the way it is supposed to happen. Okay? Kindly, sir, I let you know again, you cannot use old maps to find new land. Peter Bande, thank you for coming to the show. Ruth Ambogo, always a pleasure. Thank you for watching. Now, the National Day Celebrations Committee will be joining me in studio in just a while, and we shall be discussing the upcoming Mashujaa Day celebrations on the 20th of this month that is coming Friday. Join me for that discussion. This is the only way to start your day. Good morning, Kenya.